Now, we are here to talk about the new shape of work, and I'm extremely honored to have the joy of moderating the four leaders who are not just shaping it, but they're actually redesigning it. Right? So, they're going to be unleashing a lot of things for us on what they're really doing, how is it going, and what do we expect. Is the new term going to be a diamond, a constellation, or just the T-scale shills? We don't know. We'll hear it from them on what they're redesigning and what they're looking forward to. We'll also try and keep it short and brief so that we give you enough of time to ask the panelists questions. But we'll get started first quickly. So, Nikhil, why don't we start with you? You offered a sharp lens on the disappearing first rung of the career ladder when we were having our discussion, right? If foundation roles continue to shrink, how do you reimagine growth, learning, and readiness for the next generation?
Thanks, Hani, for asking that. And before I say anything, it's been a pleasure being here. So thank you for hosting us. And thank you for inviting me to this panel. I represent IQVIA, and some of my views are going to be around what we are doing in our company, and then see, hopefully all of you can learn from it. So I think shrinking off the bottom layer is clearly a problem, but I think it also uniquely presents an opportunity in terms of how we can redesign uh, the workforce career movements for our early talent or next generation. There are a couple of shifts that we need to make. According to me, most of these are mind shift changes. The first one is that we have to start believing and practicing that career growth will not happen vertically. As AI erodes the bottom layer, and as even the middle layer is at risk, we need to look at newer ways of enabling career growth. I think the new definition of career growth will not be moving from manager to senior manager to associate director. It will be more around the accumulation of portfolio of skills that you will end up assimilating. It's about the cross department learnings that you are having. It's about the portfolio of skills that you are assembling. It's going to be about that. And extremely pleased to say that in IQVIA, we have been championing this initiative for a few years now. We call it Career Connections. Think of it as an internal marketplace where early talent, mid-age talent, they can come to the platform and without leaving their fundamental day jobs, they can participate in side gigs, take up cross-team projects, or for example, if you're a hotshot analyst in finance, and you can go ahead and lend your analytics expertise to HR because they have a project open. So not only you learn about different domains, but you accumulate those experiences and become more future ready. So that's something that we are doing. Second thing, I think what we need to do is, as we know that some of the fundamental skills or core skills or tech skills which were indispensable, suddenly now they are being questioned. They are likely to disappear, and I think organizations also need to ensure that we recognize human-centric skills like empathy, emotional intelligence. I know the previous panelists were talking about that, but enterprises need to leapfrog and ensure that we are recognizing those skills more. And I think one of the levers that we can pull is the EVP lever, or the employer value proposition lever. I think conventionally most enterprises, most organizations, their EVPs are heavily centered around exhibiting the tangible elements that we offer. We have a beautiful compensation package. We offer supreme benefits. We offer work-life balance. I think it's time now to think beyond some of those things and look at reimagining your EVPs or recalibrating your EVPs, where the EVP is talking about growth mindset, focus, collaboration, innovation, because that's when the incoming talent will realize that's what the organization is valuing, and they will automatically be calibrated from day one when they come in. And third, and the most important thing, and my last point, is that I think if you look at the last 4 or 5 decades, I think humans have always been intimidated by technology. In 1980s, it was the computers. In 1990s, it was the internet. In the year 2000, it was mobile phones, smartphones. In the 21st century, you can easily give it to social media. And now we are talking about AI. And I'm not sure something else will come back and bite us hard in the next 10 years. But I think the way to kind of champion this is by looking at data. I think as HR leaders, as talent acquisition leaders, and as people who are handling HR at a broader scale, I think we are sitting on so much of rich data. I think it's time now to put that data to good use, look at what skill sets we have, what has been our attrition, what's our workforce performance, who has what skill sets, and we put it to good use to understand where the gaps are. And I think there are two ways in which you can do this. One is do this internally by forming internal project teams, or the other is, I was listening to Mr. Vijay Swaminathan's conversation about his talk on, the intersection of human and AI. I think something like Drop can be a beautiful partner because they are championing this initiative, they are building capabilities. So use the expertise which is out there, give it to an expert who will help bridge that gap for you. So those are, my 3 takes on this topic.
Great. Thanks, Nikhil. I think very rightly said, right? Most of us, at least, are used to the fact of, or what we grew up knowing is that we will grow the career ladder and then only reach the top. Today, AI is flattening that a lot more, right? That's kind of what the reality is, and that's what we're trying to unwind. We used to think that, okay, if you start as a data engineer, you'll only continue to grow in that same area. It's no more the same. The T-shaped skills is what the reality is. So as we unfold some...
Can I just build on
Sure.
one point that you said? I think your second point around future-proofing the talent, it is around this cross-pollination of different kinds of skill sets. And I don't know if any of you had a chance to hear one of the presentations in the main hall a little while ago around this idea of polymath engineers and polymath leaders. And I do think it's not only good for talent to be cross-trained because they'll not become obsolete, but beyond that, it's like really good for solving business problems when people can see the problem from the whole perspective and not just like a myopic view of like one skill set or one functional point of view. So I think it's not only good for future-proofing talent, like you said, but it's actually really smart from a driving business growth perspective as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Yumi, you have really set the next segue for Prashamsa. This is the question for you. Your work on skill-based hiring and internal mobility, especially in AXA Excel, is not just timely, but it's also future timing, right? With that in mind, what's been your biggest shift in thinking around the role fit and capability mapping in the skills-first world?
Thank you for that, actually. And I think my job was made a little easier by the earlier panelists as well as Nikhil. So thank you all for all of that. Skills is the currency, the new currency of the workforce, right? So when you see, and there's some data that I want to quote here, that by 2030, 40% of the skills that we possess currently today is going to be of no use. And it's scary, right? Also, 1 billion of us in the world, we have to see that we talked about upskilling, but we have to loosen up and upskill ourselves by 2030 to become relevant. So it does sound scary. And I will put in some thoughts around what does that mean for us, right? So World Economic Forum talked about future of skills, and they listed out the skills, and it's known to everyone. We speak about skills like AI fluency, adoption, etc., being the number one. The second one, being networking and cybersecurity, etc., and the third one around technological advancement and being. So what that means is it just does not mean in isolation. It means that we need to build fluency around what we do currently as a skill, that's skills that we have, right? And you will be surprised that the 6-7 skills beyond that is all analytical thinking, creative agility, resilience. Somebody spoke about adaptability, emotional intelligence, resilience, right? So these are some of the real key skills that's going to be there. So what does it mean for us? That means organizations and business leaders like all of us realize that there is a gap. We need to fill that gap. And how are we really filling this gap in the world? I can give you AXA Excel's example of how AXA is doing it. We're doing it in a 2-pronged approach. We need to make the current workforce ready for future and also ensure that the workforce that is coming in is ready to get into the world of how future thinks, right? These are the 2 major challenges that we are faced off. So what AXA Excel did was we did a huge job coding, taxonomy for each of the skills, and identify which are the key skills that is required to be future focused and future proof. So we identified not just technical skills. We have technical skills, we have business skills, and then we have people skills. And then we assessed ourselves. Each and every employee went through that skills discovery framework, and we did an assessment for 90 minutes, and we understood. Think of it like a blood report. It has a global standard where you need to be and where you are. So you understand the gap for yourself. So how did we facilitate that? It doesn't need to go to a manager or anybody. You don't need to do that. What you need to just do is, internalize and see, okay, what are the quick learning programs that I need to bridge the gap and fill the gap with. So that's one part of what we did. And to make sure that make sure that the world has the new skills that we enter the workforce, we ensure that we do skills-based hiring, similar to the people skills, the people skills, the business skills, and tech skills. We leverage that framework to make sure that every interview guide or every assessment guide is assessed to that, is married to that. And that's how we are hiring. So we are hiring for potential and not the pedigree anymore. So we are ensuring that we do that. And I feel that going into the skills-based world, and like Nikhil said, there's so much coming in. In 2 years, we'll be talking about something else. It's like the protein discussion going on in the last 2 years, right? I mean, we'll have something else. It's AI right now. It's something else coming up. So the ability, the courage to learn and continuously learn is, I think, going to be the superpower. I think that's where it comes down to for me, for sure.
Great. Thanks, Prashamsa. I think that also leads us to some very important thing that, David, you have been talking about. For instance, your ninja team approach of solving talent shortages was a great example of cross-cultural agility that we have. Why don't you tell us, what did you learn from that experience about breaking traditional silos and reshaping team structures?
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to bring you a different perspective, not only because I'm coming from Europe, but also because our business, the aerospace and defense, is not only software, it's an industrial business with many of the clients that are used to command and control paradigm of managing. So it's very complex. Consider that we have 60,000 people around the world, but 20% are blue collar. So we mix data scientists, AI specialists with the maintenance technicians. So this is one of the complexity. What I see in big organization, and then I will tell you how we try to solve this issue, that many models can coexist, depending on different situations. So we have agile teams in some parts, we have decentralized network, we have a matrix, weak or strong as you prefer. We have sometimes also functional teams. So many models can coexist. What we are trying to do in the last years, and I want to tell my personal experience in the last 3.5 years inside the aircraft business. So very industrial business. We provide all the tools to increase projectification in all the areas, not only the engineering areas, not only the business area, but also inside all the staff and other organizational areas. Projectification means we created a network of networks, or what we call IPT, Integrated Project Teams. This very pervasive in an organization. Unfortunately, the number of talents ready to be part of those teams is not enough for all the teams we have created. So when we discussed the topic, I said, I want to share the experience we had, what we call the ninja. I don't know if anyone is familiar with the ninjutsu, the art of shadow, the art of being visible in the Japanese tradition. We identify a number of talents that combine potential and performance, because of course we have to find people that is affordable and can deliver, because delivery and execution is still the main topic, but with the specific characteristics. So we assessed them. We classified them in 2 levels, Ninja Master and Ninja, not very easy to remember, based on their characteristics that are, of course, mastering technical skills in the different field, depending on the IPT, depending on the area. I told you before, are cross-functional, so you have engineering, procurement, operation, customer support, whatever you want. Those people have been assessed also in terms of ninja characteristics. So if you think to the ninjutsu, there are in the paradigm some specific characteristics. Ninja were very fluid, very flexible, very ready to adapt to change. On the meantime, they are not the leaders. So we are not just looking just for leaders. We are just looking for the best team players we can find in the organization. That means people open to collaborate, ready to connect the dots inside the organization, very fast in learning, and very curious to learn, but very open to share their knowledge with the others, not protecting their knowledge. No? We evaluated also an important, and for me, one of the most important for the future, the capability, the ability to coach the others, to mentor the others, to help developing the others is one of the most characteristics we look for in those kind of ninja. Let me say, 3 years later, what I can say is that we found a double-digit productivity increase in those teams where we included this shadow people that then are part of the team. We call it in Latin, coming back to 2,000 years ago in Roman, primus inter pares. That means first among equals. So they are not the leader, but the most important contributor to the success of their teams.
That's fantastic. Just the way how everything is coming together. And some of you who are HR leaders over here always heard this or always said, right, one size doesn't fit all. It continues to be the same. But what's adding on is potential is becoming more important, becoming more flattening it's no more like leaders have to grow up the hierarchy. Leaders is more influential. Leadership is becoming a real thing. A lot of us have spoken about it, heard about it, but we are now in the era where it's real. It's now that we need to solve for, we need to create for, and we need to start shaping for. So with that context, just moving on, Remy, how are you, when you were talking to us, you did share with us about the actocracy versus bureaucracy and distributed empowerment reality, that really resonated with a lot of us as we were discussing. So why don't you talk to us about how are you structuring decision making to stay close with customers without losing alignment to the core?
Thank you for that. And good afternoon, everyone. We have a hard time slot because we're right after lunch. So we'll do our best to keep everybody entertained here and curious. So we in our intro discussion, I was sharing with the team this idea of actocracy. So we've invented a word at Quest Global, which is actocracy as opposed to bureaucracy. And that's because our company is very flat, already structured. We only have 5 layers in the company anyways. And in a company of 22,000 people, 5 layers is already a very flat organization, very flat. And so, what we're doing now, and let me first, I guess, describe what actocracy means. Simply stated, it means making sure that our teams know that they're empowered to get a hold of the business problem, make sure you fully understand the whole business challenge in front of you, figure out who can help solve the problem across any kind of boundary. There aren't boundaries. Who can help you solve the problem? And then have the empowerment and courage and psychological safety around you to take the action, take the decision, and move the ball forward. And so, and that goes for all 22,000 people in the company. And so it's a very timely topic for Quest Global right now. We just crossed $1 billion in revenue this year. So it's a big milestone for us. And, you know, what started as a 2-person organization 28 years ago is now just over 21,000. And so a lot of our success over these years has really been centered around this idea of building a culture around owner's mindset and having this entrepreneurial DNA where everybody feels like they're the most important person in the company. Everybody feels like they're empowered to take decisions because they are closest to what is happening, you know, at the front line. And they're the ones who have the best knowledge of like what's needed in this moment and go for it. So our teams are very decentralized anyways and empowered to take risks, make investment decisions, you know, act in the best interest of the company and the best interest of what will make our clients successful. And then obviously what's in the best interest of our people. But I say all of that because the context is really important. We're now gaining scale and it's easier to do in your smaller organization. And as we scale and as we have aspirations to actually build a 100-year-old company, you know, we're trying to figure out how do you hold on to this decentralized structure and not let the pyramid sneak in. Because as we all know, as companies get bigger, centralized decision-making becomes more prominent, more rules and policies and regulations start to creep in, the business starts to slow down, and then ultimately, you know, the bureaucracy starts settling in. And so we are actively trying to get ahead of that and fight it. And so that's where this terminology of actocracy has come into our organization. So not only talking and having very active conversations all the time, you know, just shoot the shot, like go for it. But also equally as important is having very candid conversations with our frontline leaders around how do you spot bureaucracy? And what does that look like? Let's name it, let's describe it, and then let's call ourselves out when we're doing it. You know, like how many people does it really take to make a decision? How many meetings did you have to get to the decision point? And, you know, it should be one meeting, the right decision people in the room, you know, which is not anybody at the top of the company, you know, take the decision. And so we're very much having an equal weighting on fighting bureaucracy as we are on the acting part of it. So the only other thing I wanted to kind of share a bit about is, you know, I think this is not only good for business and helping us making sure that we're taking decisions, you know, that are in the best interest of our clients and our people, you know, as a whole, but it's also very motivating for our people. No one wakes up and says, oh, I can't wait to go to work and be a cog in the wheel and do a routine task and have no voice in the company. You know, people, we're all wired to be hungry and aspirational and, you know, dream of our potential and stretch ourselves and figure out how to get there. So when you have a empowered organization where decision-making is truly decentralized, it gives people an opportunity to be motivated and feel like they're contributing and making a difference every day. And so that is also good for business because there you have a motivated employee group who have less attrition and, you know, there's costs and all kinds of things that come out of that. So it's like good for business and good for our people. So I'm a huge, huge advocate of, you know, decentralization, and this whole idea of actocracy. If I could leave that with you, I would, you know, I think it's something interesting to hang on to instead of, you know, typically how large organizations act.
No, very true. And I guess that's something that definitely is a big takeaway, especially given the scale. It's no, most of the time we say it's easier to build it, but how do we sustain it? But given the scale that Yumi was talking about, definitely talks about it is possible. We are in the world of era now where the art of possibility is with us. So it's all about how we shape it and how we take it forward rather than waiting for somebody to define it for us. So with this, I'll probably pause with my questions and open it up to the audience if there are any questions for the panelists. Okay. Can we have a mic there, please?
Thank you for the insightful session. So my question is for the talent acquisition or talent leaders basically. So as we are implementing a lot of AI in terms of hiring process as well. Now most of the organization, they are trying to automate as much as possible the hiring process. So from the hiring process, we are trying to eliminate the human intervention or human element from the hiring process where we are hiring people. So how actually you see that thing means how by doing that are we able to keep a human element or human touch to it, or means are we going to eliminate it totally in future?
I think I can take that because I wear both hats at times, depending on what I'm doing. I don't think that's completely true. We're not completely eliminating the human element in hiring. But I think what we're trying to do is whatever is. So we live in India, and when we hire in India, if we have one data engineering role, there are 3,000 people applying for it overnight, especially in the world of inclusion and diversity, where we don't give any years of experience, etc., on the job description. You can imagine a chef is also applying for a data engineering role. So we use AI to filter out the real mean in where actually find good talent, but that does not mean the human element is eliminated anywhere in the process. I think there is more value add that the recruiters will do and have personal conversations with the right set of candidates. So I don't think that's going. Did I answer that for you?
Can I just build on what you said? I mean,
Sure.
I'm not talent acquisition by any means, but I am a brand person. And lead marketing for our organization as well. And so I think, Nikhil, you were saying before this idea of EVP and things like that. Your employer brand matters a lot for everybody in this room. And so you can't take the human part completely out of the equation, because every touch point with your company is a chance to make an impression that reflects on the brand of your company in a positive or a not positive way. And I, was just using that phrase of like, no one wants to feel like a cog in the wheel. But if it feels like through your recruitment process that you actually are a cog, then like imagine the kind of talent that you're actually attracting to come sign up for that job. So of course, AI is going to help weed out. You can't possibly weed through 3,000 applications to get to one position, of course. But at some point, the human emotive connection has to be there, or you're, or I think, as the brand person, I think you're putting your brands in jeopardy by taking the human component out of it.
Yeah. Sorry. No, just making an addition what they say. If you think, as I described the ninja profile, of course, we implemented in our group talent acquisition tool, AI-based. We have 6-7 months of experience. So let me say, we are still at the beginning. But the main step is just to help the recruiting team in selecting the profile right or approximately right for the position. But if you have to evaluate their human performance characteristics, their attitude to work with the other, their empathy, their ability to create connection to the organization, of course, human cannot be, of course, substituted by technology.
Yeah, the only additional thing that I'll say here is that, see, both parties are using AI. We are trying to test AI, to filter out the wheat. Candidates are using AI to fabricate skills which they no longer have. And I
Add
think
them onto the JD.
Exactly.
And the JD matching the
as he was
CV
saying,
exactly.
even a chef suddenly becomes a data scientist overnight. So I think the middle ground here is that I think we have to really look at it with a slightly different lens. And the lens is that think of a recruiter's day job. He's talking to candidates, shifting through resumes, lining them up, talking to hiring managers. I think they will become more talent advisors. They will become more location experts. They will. I think with AI, you can filter out which candidates are most likely to be successful in the interview process, and you need to dedicate your time and attention and energy on them, right? I think that's where I think the big shift will happen. But to say that, AI will do everything and then, human-centric quality, that the tool doesn't really possess human-centric qualities. We talk to so many candidates and we know that candidates like to interact with an actual recruiter. Think of a chatbot interacting, it can never really replicate what a human can do in terms of personalization. So I think there is a middle ground there. We can definitely test it out. What are some of the redundant items that we are doing that AI can enable, but also ensure that we pave the way for recruiters and sourcers and their line managers, so they are picking up things that matter the most, which are more value creating, which are more higher order, which are more advisory in nature. I think that's something that we are seeing a lot in our company. But I think it all depends on the leadership which is handling it, and I think it has to be driven from the top, because as leaders are, what we say is amplified in magnitude, and the magnitude of that is different. So I think if that is enabled from the top, I'm sure that problem of AI taking away our jobs and machines doing everything, I don't think that is even a question. It's more about how we are embracing it.
We have another question there.
Hi, thank you for an engaging conversation. Just loving the energy here. So I have two questions. One is my main question, which is, how do you think agents entering the workforce, as humans assume supervisory roles and we have agents coming into the workforce, how will that impact the hierarchy or the lack thereof, right? And the second question, which Hani started the event with, and I'm also really excited to know the answer to that from all of you. What's the exact shape we are looking at here? It's a T shape, it's a diamond, or something else entirely? Thank you.
Do you mind repeating your first question one more time?
Sure. So how do agents entering the workforce impact the pyramid?
So see, the pyramid is already impacted. As I said, I was making my point earlier. I think traditional pyramid structure is already disrupted, or if not, it will very soon be disrupted, because entry-level jobs are at biggest risk. And who is line managing entry-level people? It's the mid-tier. So if there is no bottom tier, then definitely the mid-tier is also going to, they will have to feel that impact.
So just to quickly add to that, what I meant would be that, let's say, as AI advances, assuming that decision rights get to a point that agents assume supervisory roles over some entry-level human roles.
Yeah.
So if you could throw some light on
I think it's also about, what type of work are you asking AI agents to do? See, as leaders, as line managers, we still do a lot of administrative tasks. I think if there is a way in which we can explore AI to do that, and we focus more on people management and upskilling and all of that, I think that is something which is hard to imagine for AI to do, at least in the near future, right? Because the entry-level jobs, the cumbersome jobs are not only happening at entry level. All of us are doing something. For example, suddenly we have embraced Copilot, and it is responding to all our emails. It is sorting out our calendars. As leaders, we spend so much time doing it, right? So as AI agents, they will definitely take up some of the stuff which is redundant, non-value creating, and so that line managers can focus on, upskilling the workforce, paving the way for future conversations, fulfilling their career aspirations. I think that's where agents will still come in and impact the type of work that line managers are doing, but the human element still will add value in terms of doing things differently, paving the way for future workforce, and things like that. Anything else that you want?
Just we discussed a lot in the last months this kind of issue, because it will impact for sure in the future. We see the middle management really the key point of this big change, because of course we think about always to the entry task, administrative task that maybe will be cancelled or fully replaced by AI agents. Middle management roles is the key point, because in the traditional organization, in this point, are very, very fundamental, because they are the connection link in the chain between the leadership and the workers. They spend most of their time in doing firefighting activities, task management, controlling and monitoring their works. This will disappear. But on the other side, the question is, there is still a value for middle manager in our organization? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. We think we are very, very confident that in redesigning the workflows that mix together an hybrid workforce, AI-based and human-based, they can play the key role. So we expect that the process redesign, the workflow redesign must be done by middle management. That means they will not focus in the future on controlling and monitoring, etc., but maybe as the coaching, identified skills to be upskill or reskill, creating connection to the organization. This will be the role in the future, but we still believe there is a role for middle management, at least in our company.
I echo a lot of what you just said. I was going to say it's more of a controversial view, but maybe not. I just question what's the role of middle management in a decentralized organization where people are empowered. What is the role of the manager? And I believe, I think our company practices that there are no aggregator roles in the company that I work for now. So if you're an aggregator and all you're doing is aggregating other people's work, what value are you actually creating for the client or your people or the organization? And so I think if those kinds of roles exist, I wouldn't replace it with an agent. I would rethink, like, what are you doing? Like, why do you need those controls in place? Like, how can you empower your people and actually trust that your people are trained enough and smart enough and whatever to make good decisions? So, I think where I agree a lot is I think, an important role of managers is actually coaching and teaching. And if managers are coaching and teaching to raise the next second generation and third generation of talent, then that's a great way to contribute value back into the organization. But just from controls and process and checking people's work, I think that already is an obsolete concept, in my opinion.
No, completely agree. And nowadays, teams are more forming around missions and not really managers. That's where we are getting. And I know I'm getting time cues over here, and I'm sure we don't want to come in between you and the next session. But I just want
Yeah, the second part of the question, I'll come back to it offline.
We forgot about it. Yeah,
But just probably one quick rapid fire before we call it off for all of you is, what is one pyramid era leadership belief we should leave behind?
I can go first. I think leadership knows best. I think it's no more like that. Every node in the value chain brings that value and knows and has the subject matter expertise of what they have. So I think long gone are those days where we say that leadership knows everything is top down, and it's a lot of decentralized, a lot of co-creation. I think that's leadership knows best is something that I would really not go with.
I think according to me, I think about it a bit differently. I don't think it's an opportunity loss, but it's an area which we can embrace and see how we can radically redesign. I think, as I was saying earlier at the beginning of this conversation, that as leaders, our actions are amplified, and we need to act as change agents. I think technically speaking, the pyramid will not literally inverse, but leaders will play a larger role in terms of driving the right messaging in the organization. And I think we will act as change agents. Because see, everybody is worried about what it can do, and then the shifting of the pyramid and the entry-level workforce being eroded. I think it's all about how leaders message it around. How do they create an atmosphere of managing that change effectively? I think that's one thing that's going to be a very, very integral component of all of this.
One key message is this: in the past, but also now, we were used to say that the decision must be done mainly top down and implemented by the organization. I think that this paradigm will change. The art of judgment is the most important skill for the future at all the layers, at all the levels in the organization.
You stole my point. We're like too close. Our brains are melding into one over here. I completely agree. I think
Together.
we did. We were spending all this time together. Just the whole idea of the pyramid, I think, is outdated and obsolete. And I know organizations have to catch up. I grew up in, Nestle. It's a highly hierarchical structured company. So there's a lot of change that will have to come across organizations. But I agree 100%. Leadership no longer is for the few at the top, where decision making has to happen. Everybody in every organization is a leader if you will let them be one. And so in some sense, everybody's a leader. Organizations have to figure out how to trust and empower their people to take decisions, because the decision should be taken at the point closest to where the problems exist in an organization. So my main point is actocracy and, get rid of hierarchy.
No, on that note, thank you all for reminding us that the future of work is not about climbing, it's about evolving. Whether it's pyramid, diamond, ninja pods, or constellations, it's not the shape anymore, it's about the mindset. Let's build teams that flex, leaders that adapt, and workplaces that make room for everyone to grow. Thank you so much for
Thank you. Thank you.